Let's say you use mines and you mines the backline, and that forces the enemy team to trance. That's a positive ult trade because you're using an ult that isn't as valuable to force like a really valuable ultimate. Or maybe let's say you had let's say you maybe have Bob, for instance. I know it's not up here, but maybe there, Ash exists too, and Ash has Bob. Maybe you Bob, and you go straight on the Brig, and that forces Rally. That's like huge, right? You're using Bob, which you build really fast to force Rally, and Rally is a really impressive ultimate. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about alt and CD trading and sort of what that is. It might be sort of a new concept for some people. For some people, you might know what it is. So in a very simple sense, we'll sort of first talk about, what CD trading is. We'll talk about what alt trading is. We'll talk about what CD trading for alts is. And later we'll look at sort of positive alt trading, which is like a really, really, really important concept. So first, what is CD trading? Let's also make sure you can see everything. You can. Yes, you can. Cool. What is CD trading? A very simple thing is, two CDs are being used, and you're sort of like using one to hopefully trade for the other. So, for example, it could be, D.Va using rockets. So D.Va rockets, on like a Winston bubble. You may not break it, but like that's sort of the idea, is you're sort of like using it to try and kill something. Another really big one that I think is like a very good CD trade is like using halt for amp speed, enemy amp speeds, and you sort of halt it. Amp speed. That I think is like a very good one. Some other ones might be maybe the enemy May walls and you speed out. So basically, there's some reaction, and you have another there's some like action in general when you see all this type of stuff. There is some action, and then there is some other action. Now, this first action could be a CD, it could be an alt, right? And there's some other, CD or alt that is used to sort of like try and counteract that action. It's like sort of the general sense of it. So we'll sort of go look more. Now let's look at alt trading. Hopefully CD trading makes sense. Think of like just very simply like it, enemy team speeds out, you halt to counteract their speed. Enemy team May walls, you speed out. Maybe the enemy team has a really good wall and like Orion's low, so you have to lamp him. Like all that type of stuff exists in CD trading. Next thing is alt trading. And so for alt trading, we'll sort of like look at some basic ones, and later we'll go into something more interesting called positive alt trading. So let's say the person fluxes, then maybe you trance the flux. Another example is maybe grav happens, and maybe you beat the grav. Like all very like common, nothing crazy, just very standard, alt trading. Now we get into more interesting stuff. What if I said that if an enemy team uses an alt, you can trade that alt for a CD, which is like crazy if you think about it, because enemies using an alt that takes a lot of time to build up, and you're trading that ultimate for a CD. That's really powerful. So I'll give you some very basic examples that most of you probably already know. So if you think about brawl compositions, enemy uses window, then you just May wall. That's like a very simple, a CD to counter to wall off window. That's trading a CD for an ultimate. That's strong. Like this, you might see, you might see something where it's like high noon or May wall again. Some other ones that are a little more in depth, but we'll still talk about. Let's say the enemy team maybe nanos Winston. And then now, instead of just using one CD, maybe you use multiple things. So you try and halt the Winston away. Then on top of that, you use Fortify. Let's say you're playing double shield. Fortify. And then maybe you need Lamp. Hopefully you don't, but maybe you need Lamp. So now you're using 3 CDs to deal with the nano with one ultimate, which is still inherently better than, trading an alt for an alt. If you can use CDs to trade for an ultimate, that's great. That's just more effective. Obviously, Lamp is like a sort of a pseudo ult in essence, because if it's CD, how long it is. But in general, like using halt and Fortify, sort of trade for Nano Winston, that's pretty good. Obviously, you need good positioning as well. Another example could be the enemy team may ults, and then when they may ult, you use speed, you amp speed. Whoops, speed did not come out very good. There you go. You amp speed, plus you maybe may wall them so they can't kill you, plus maybe you lamp after if needed. Then, you know, by, again, 3 CDs to counter a mail, that's pretty good. Hopefully all of that makes sense. Now let's sort of move to something a bit more interesting, and it's sort of very, you know, it's very important, I would say, in ball comp and in general any composition. So hopefully you can sort of understand this concept in like sort of a global aspect, this concept of, you know, trading CDs for alts. This can sort of work with any different composition. It can work with Brawl, it can Brawl Mirror, it can work with Brawl versus Winston, like a Winston dive. It could work with ball comp versus Brawl, like anything it works. It's just a concept of thinking about what CDs can I use to like counter, you know, their grab that might come. Obviously DM maybe, and maybe trying to save lamp, and maybe trying to amp out, maybe trying to Maywall last second, like stuff like that, so that, you know, it's hard for the enemy team to follow up. But now, what's positive alt trading? So positive alt trading is where you're using an alt that isn't as valuable for an alt that is super valuable. So in ball, we'll use ball comp first as an example, and then maybe we'll look at another composition as well. So in ball comp, we have ball, diva. This is just one example. I mean, you know, you can have different variations of ball comp. Man, my handwriting is just not it today. Tracer, Sombra, Brig, Zen. So, and in this situation from that, you have, we'll use red here. You have Mines, Bomb, Pulse, EMP, Rally, and Trance. Now, if you were to logically say, like, what out of these ultimates, what are sort of the strongest alts? I think if you thought about it a little bit, you'd say EMP, Rally, Trance. These are like really strong ultimates, and that like they can sort of like lead to like fight wins. So now, if you can sort of think of a way that maybe, you know, the enemy team, or if you know the enemy team has EMP, Rally, Trance, and you use a less value ultimate to force that ult, that's really good. So for instance, let's say maybe you use something like, let's say you use Mines, and you Mines the backline, and that forces the enemy team to Trance. That's a positive alt trade, because you're using an alt that isn't as valuable to force like a really valuable ultimate. Or maybe let's say you had let's say you maybe have Bob, for instance. I know it's not up here, but maybe there, you know, Ashe exists too, and Ashe has Bob. Maybe you Bob and you go straight on the Brig, and that forces Rally. That's like huge, right? You're using Bob, which you build really fast, to force Rally, and Rally is a really impressive ultimate. Now, let's sort of see in a, like a more practical setting, sort of like, you know, how this would actually matter and why this is so important. Let's say hypothetically we have two teams, team 1 and team 2. Team 1 has, let's say, we'll use sort of the example I guess we had. Team 1 has Mines, Rally, and Trance. Team 2 has, let's say, I don't know, Pulse, Rally, and Trance. Okay, let's go down a bit more. Okay. You want to keep that? I guess we can keep that. Right, there we go. So now, let's say Team 1 initiates first, and they use Mines. And that Mines forces Team 2, Team 1, that forces Teams 2 to use something. It forces them to maybe Trance. Okay? So now, Team 1 has no Mines, Team 2 has no Trance. Team 2 after this tries to use Pulse to try and get value, but nothing happens. Can maybe try and change this. And we can do like try to use Pulse on Team 1, but nothing happens. So now Pulse is gone. So now Mines is gone, and Team 2's Trance is gone. So now Team 1 has an alt advantage, where they have Rally and Trance. So now what can happen is, Team 1 can now push with Rally, be really aggressive, which will then inherently, because they're rallying, that will then force Team 2 to rally. But right after that, Team 1's like, hey, I know we forced their trance really early with mines. They're at a support ult disadvantage. We can now trance after. So after this, after they force that rally, they trance, and then they probably just win. So what I'm getting at is if you're able to try and force these really important ultimates, in ball comp, it's really support ultimates like rally and trance, and that gives you a support ult advantage, then you're sort of at a massive advantage, and you can sort of like, if you play your cards correctly, you can use your support ults to your advantage and just sort of win the ebb and flow. If you don't know what ebb and flow is, that's sort of what's happening right over here. You can watch my ebb and flow video. But hopefully this makes sense. I'll give another example in another composition. Let's say we're playing Brawl. So let's say we're doing like a Brawl mare. We'll change the Brawl mare. Whoops. To Brawl mare. And let's say, let's see here. Let's say team 1 has window and high noon, let's say. And let's say they have beat. Team 2 has bomb, beat, and maybe window. Okay, so this isn't like a very like perfect example. Let me just try and fix this here. Team, there we go. But let's say team 1 initiates maybe with window. Team 1 uses window. We learned earlier that window can be countered by Maywall, which is, you know, using a CD for an ult, which is super good. So team 2 now uses Maywall. Now, obviously, team 1 has a Maywall advantage here. Team 1 could push with Maywall, but before that even happens, team 2 maybe looks to throw a Diva Bomb. It throws a Diva Bomb, which now team 1 is out of position and wasn't really expecting that Diva Bomb and is forced to beat. And team 2 is like, ha ha ha, I knew that they were going to maybe beat because they're out of position. So they speed out when the Diva Bomb happens. So when the enemy team speeds in with beat, they're already out. And now team 1 has used beat and window. Team 1 has only used bomb. And now team 1 has a beat advantage. So now, coming up, right, team 1, after they sort of pull back, team 1, after they sort of like, they're pushing in, they tried to like, the Diva Bomb came in. Team 1 was like, oh, the Diva Bomb's coming in. I'm going to go really forward. Team 2 sort of kited back a bit. Then right after that, team 2 is like, ha ha ha, they have no beat now. We have beat advantage. So then team 2 now looks to beat, wrong color, and just go really in, and that leads to a W. Because that Diva Bomb forced beat, which Diva Bomb really inherently doesn't normally get a lot of value, but if it forces beat, and then that's pretty good. That's like a positive ult trade, because beat is very valuable in mid-fight, whereas Diva Bomb in mid-fight is very questionable. It could get value, could not get value. It's like Shatter almost, right? If you use Shatter and you force an enemy team to use beat off of it, then you've got beat advantage. That's a lot of value. So sort of this, hopefully you sort of get this concept of like, you know, using an ultimate that isn't like necessarily like a massive win con or as high value, but you're using it to actually like trade for an ultimate that is massive value. And then if you realize that in the middle of a fight, then you can be like, hey, we've got an advantage with ults. Let's push really hard and use our next ultimate and win. Hopefully this made sense. It's a really interesting concept, and it's something that not a lot of people really think about when you're looking at different compositions. And I think the biggest ones to really go deep into, I'd say, are definitely the positive ult trading and the CD trading for ultimates. The CD trading and the basic ult trading, that's very basic stuff. I don't think it's anything, it's important. But this is definitely like the more sort of high level, in my opinion, and sort of it's very useful once you sort of start digging deep into compositions and going into like optimizations. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah.